She said it's calming.
Your soft voice is calming. I can see that.
I guess
Ah,
if that person's kind of like used to. I mean, how you respond to certain people's voices. Like if you're frustrated or angry or feeling a certain way, if a person has a kind of voice that may annoy you or make you feel, I don't know how to explain it really.
certain type of way.
Yeah.
Man, you're gonna chew that gum. I
Yes.
don't know if that's a good idea.
You don't think so?
You're gonna have gum in your mouth. You're gonna be chewing gum right into a microphone.
So it's gonna sound like.
Man, that would drive people crazy.
Okay. I'm not gonna chew it again.
Come on, Brittany. We gotta be courteous of the listeners.
Hmm.
We gotta be
I just
courteous
go
of the
through my
listeners.
usual routine when I eat.
What's your normal routine?
When I eat something, I chew gum to get the crap out of my teeth,
Oh.
and then that's mostly the reason why I do it. And
You
then
know, do you think that's bullshit that they say 4 out of 5 dentists recommend that recommend gum? I think it's bullshit. I don't even trust dentists, to be honest with you.
they're like meteorologists, only have to be 50% accurate at the time.
I think that dentists are just constantly trying to add services and make you pay for shit.
That's very true because when I went to the dentist a little while ago, I just really just wanted to get a bridge. And next thing you know, I walked out of there with Invisalign and a whole bunch of other
What the
stuff.
fuck?
Like, convinced me that my
You need
teeth
to move those?
needed to realign my teeth a little bit so that they can stay in place. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
Every time I go for a cleaning, well, if you like switch dentists, they won't just like transfer your records. They'll be like, "Oh, we got to do all new everything." It's like I don't understand. Why can't you just use the records that this last place used? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's like they're always trying to charge you for
Hmm.
services.
I mean, it's a business. How can we add on more features to our business?
Fucking dentists.
Hmm.
I can't trust them.
Yeah.
Hmm. Anyway,
Yeah, they keep calling me and sending me notifications saying that a new appointment has opened up. Call now to get in this
yeah,
week.
yeah. Here, move that up just a little bit closer to your mouth for me.
Yeah.
We gotta hear you. Folks need to hear you, Brittany.
It's just weird, kind of have this right there next to my mouth.
Yeah, you get used to it though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's probably. I think it's more weird to have like the headphones on and to like hear your voice, cause then like you're like at least me like at the beginning like I'm like self-regulating for what I hear, or like maybe I'm just being self-conscious of like what I sound like.
Yeah. No one really likes listening to their own voice.
It makes me cringe.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me fucking cringe. Hmm. So Brittany, I want to talk to you first about fighting because that's a very interesting part of your life, considering that you are a teacher and you're going to school now to be like a full-time counselor,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But you've been an athlete your entire life, right? I want to know your story. I don't know your story.
Yeah. Being an athlete has like always been a part of my life,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else has kind of just gone with it, like peanut butter and jelly in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, I went to Marquette, so I was in like Rockwood, and so after Marquette,
That's a nice high school.
yeah.
Oh, shit.
Hmm. But I was a part of like the DSEG program, so I live in the city though, of St. Louis. So
What's the DSEG program? Explain that to folks.
it's like where they select, well, they have students from the inner city go to
Like
suburban schools
right,
and
like
things
out to
like.
the county.
Yeah, so we'll have nice long bus rides from the city to the county.
Oh,
That was
shit.
part of that program. They no longer have it anymore though. Um,
Really?
yeah, I really thought it was a great thing. Um, for me, it definitely, I feel like it has definitely impacted my whole life.
Right.
The track of where I would have went had I not have gone, like to, a school out in Rockwood.
Yeah, because Marquette, like, they have a really nice campus. They have, like, a ton of athletic programs. I didn't know that high schools even offered swimming until I think we had a wrestling tournament there in high school,
Hmm.
and I saw their pool. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is a thing? Like, we didn't have that in Jeff City.
Yeah.
That's interesting. When did they stop doing that program? Do you know?
Mm, I want to say it was probably within 5 years after I got out. Like I was in '08. I don't know exactly the year, but it
So,
was a little while after I got out.
pretty recent, though.
Yeah, because my brothers went there too, and they went through the program too. But then like after that,
Yeah. When did they graduate? So your youngest brother went through it?
hmm
When did he graduate?
like 2013.
2013? So
Hmm.
within the last 5 years, they've ended this program?
Hmm.
Wow. I wonder why. Do you know why?
Mm,
What would you guess?
well, I will say one, funding. And I think I remember vaguely like some issues with one of the districts uh, with surrounding students coming from the city into their district. And I feel like it was just a lot of
You
people didn't want
just
it
pushback
anymore.
from those kids coming
Hmm.
like into the. It's
Yeah.
like we moved away from that area.
Hmm.
Like, why are we trying to blend it now?
Right.
Hmm.
The piece of integration.
That's fascinating.
Hmm.
So you went there.
Yeah.
You're a track athlete.
Yeah.
What?
But before track, really, I played basketball.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Were
I
you
played
any good?
basketball since I was like 9.
All right.
I was going to be in the WNBA.
That was the
That was the
move.
first dream.
When did
Yeah.
you switch?
I mean, I played basketball and then I did track as well in
You
high
did them
school.
both, and then is that just
Hmm.
a scholarship that you got?
Yeah, I kind of chose to go with track
Oh,
instead of
okay.
basketball when I went to college. I feel like I didn't have a lot of knowledge in high school about like college and exactly what would be the most beneficial thing for me. So I kind of just went on what I knew best, what I felt comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
So like I got tons of letters from like schools all over the US. I even remember like these Ivy League schools and I'm like, what? I was like, I'm never gonna be able to get into these schools like Princeton and stuff, but like I got track letters.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really received much from basketball. So I just thought, well, I'm getting stuff from track. Maybe I should do track, and it's an individual sport. So I know that I feel like I had a better chance of always competing versus basketball and maybe riding the bench or something. Like I was like, what's my optimal chance of actually competing?
Yeah.
And so,
That's a tough time in life to make decisions.
yeah,
I didn't have any guidance, like, kind of going into college. Like, my parents, they didn't go to college, and they didn't really know the whole process. And you don't know anything. Like you said, like, you don't really know what the best thing to do is.
yeah,
So you just end up choosing something.
yeah. The same thing. My parents didn't know much about. They didn't go to college, so
Yeah.
it was just pretty much me deciding what I was gonna do.
Yeah. Fuck, man. That's like the worst thing you could do is let an 18-year-old make a decision like that and they don't know anything really.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm still a little bitter about it.
I was gonna say, like, so,
'Cause,
so what would you have done different, you think?
oh man, I would have went to a school that would have paid for all of my college.
Yeah. You took a partial scholarship?
I really didn't even have scholarship until like my junior year
Oh, really?
of college.
So why'd you go? Where'd you go?
I went to SLU.
SLU?
Hmm.
Why'd you go to SLU? Just because it was home?
Well, originally I was gonna go to Missouri State, and I did receive some scholarship from them. And then when I got my SLU like financial aid packet, like they pretty much covered it all. But so in my little 18-year-old mind was like, oh, I guess they offer me these loans and all of that will cover school and I
Yeah.
get to stay in St. Louis.
Oh, you're like, yeah, this is the dream, huh?
Yeah,
Ooh,
and
those fucking loans, man.
yeah, but did I really think about the weight of loans at that time? No, obviously not,
Nope.
because and then SLU is so expensive.
It's a very expensive
Yeah,
university.
so all of that piles up, and then I'm like, I got Great Lakes calling me and stuff. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I could have went to SIUE, so Southern Illinois University of Edwardsville,
Yeah.
and I could have went there for a full ride on wrestling, and I took a partial scholarship to Lindenwood because they had a major I wanted. I wanted to do athletic training and move into physical therapy. I'm doing neither one of those things.
Yeah.
I ended up getting like a business degree, but it's like that was just a bad move. And now that I look back on it, I probably would have waited to go to school. They make you feel like you have to go right into college, and if you
Yeah.
don't, you're a fucking loser, and you'll never make it in life.
Right. As if that time off in between is really going to hinder you.
Right? It's really not. If anything, I think it helps you.
Yeah.
To gain some life experience and then to go to college, like once you have a better like understanding of like who you are and what you actually like what you're actually interested in and what you want to do, it's easier to focus.
Yeah. So you can save that time from going there trying to decide what you even want to go for, and then have all that time switching majors and whatnot.
Getting all broke and shit.
Hmm.
What did you study in undergrad?
Well, I always wanted to do education, but I started off as secondary education, and I was going to do like secondary math because I really like math, teaching math, because I
Yeah.
did a cadet teaching class in high school. And then slowly I realized that once I got to calculus, I was like, I don't think I want to teach this. So then, but I was also really interested in psychology, and I was like, well, I would like to teach psychology, but that's in the like social studies or department, but it's like you would have to teach all the social studies and before you would really teach psychology. So I went through that, and then eventually I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? And I had to kind of refigure it out, and then I ended up thinking about, well, where can I have the most impact? And so then I chose elementary because I was like, well, high schoolers are kind of like already in their ways, you know? So I was like, well, what about the young ones? They're the most, moldable at the time. And
That's true.
so I chose to say, and then I get to choose teach everything as in elementary. So I ended up switching to that and got my degree in elementary education.
Right. I imagine your calm demeanor and voice helps with the little kids.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people. I mean, and it also kind of goes with my fight name, right? The Quiet
The
Storm.
quiet storm.
I've heard people say that you're so quiet but very firm, and like, I was like, I guess so.
Hey, no time to fuck around. I don't know if I'd have the patience for little kids. Teaching kids jujitsu um, has been a very it's been a big learning experience for me. Like my jujitsu's gotten 1,000 times better,
Yeah.
but like I feel like I'm a pretty patient person. But I'd never really thought about all the personalities that you come across like in little human beings. Like it's like you have the entire gamut that you would see just in any adult, but there's just this little miniature human being and they're just like that too. It's fucking weird.
Yeah. You see who they're gonna like. You see their personality as an adult.
Yeah, you can see like, oh, I know what you're gonna be like when you're older. I can see it. Yeah. I try not to like judge them and put them in buckets, but it's just like, man, these kids are something else.
Yeah. I mean, there's some parts of you that's just always gonna be you. Like I look at my students, I'm like, I can't wait to see you as an adult. This is funny, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you're touching a lot of kids' lives. You ever thought about that impact?
Yeah, I wondered, because I think about like what I remember from my elementary school teachers, and I wonder like what will they remember about me when they get older, you know? So I
Yeah.
wonder that different kids will take different things from you. So
Right.
I will never know. One day in the future, I'll meet one of my old students, and they'll.
That'd be interesting.
I know.
Yeah, which ones will and which ones won't remember you? I don't remember my first grade teacher. I think I do, but no, not really. There's just too much information.
Yeah,
Too much information.
exactly. And
But do you remember many of your students? Because you have a lot of students, so I think the odds of them remembering you is a lot higher than you remembering them.
yeah, I feel like it's fresh in my mind now because this is like my fifth year of teaching, so
Yeah.
I remember most of my students. As you continue to add classes of classes, then those first years might
Yeah.
start to trail off in my
Start to
mind.
trail off, man.
But
Yeah. Well, I kind of got off subject there for a second because we were talking about fighting and athletics, and then we
no,
went to teaching. We'll get to that though. But so you were killing it in track in
yeah,
college, right?
yeah, yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
hmm
What did you? I don't like because I know that you were inducted into their Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
So what did you do?
I did a long and triple jump.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had both of the records for long and triple jump
For the
there.
school.
hmm
Nice.
Yeah, and I guess the biggest thing is like every year for conference, we were in the A10 conference, and I won conference and the triple jump every year.
Mm.
So indoor and out. So I was like 8-time indoor champ for the triple.
What made you transition into MMA and not just like stick down the path of like trying to move on with track? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like some people do that.
Yeah, well, when I got out of college, I did continue training in track for a couple years. Like
Okay.
as a post collegiate, I traveled and I competed at track meets and everything.
Oh, so you did all that. You did that grind.
Yeah, that's what I said. I've been doing this for a while,
Shit.
and
That's got to be a hell of a grind.
yeah, and then fresh out, I mean, I was teaching too, so I was teaching full time and then going and hitting the track and doing workouts and whatnot. I started training with the SIUE jumps coach,
Okay.
Ilian. I met him at a meet, and his wife, she did the triple jump too, so I like trained under him with her,
Nice.
and I really enjoyed that time. I felt like I really made a lot of progress with them during that period of time. It was that last meet at Mizzou. That was my last competition. It was like 80 degrees, and it was like perfect, and I was running well, and I was jumping well. And in my last jump, I like strained my hamstring,
Oh shit.
and so I was like, and it was just like I had jumped really far, like my sophomore year at jerk relays and at college and SLU. And since then, I've like jumped well, but been very inconsistent on the board. So I hadn't gotten back to like that jump. I jumped like 1270. And so I finally got back to 1270 with him. And then I was like jumping beyond 1270. And it's like now I was reaching, we were within the window for the Olympic trials. And so I was like really close. If all I needed was one really good jump, and I was going to be at the trials.
No, I don't understand the measurements. What's 1270?
1270 is 41 feet 8 inches.
Okay,
and
so
like,
they measure that whole thing in inches? Is that how that works?
well, they use meters,
Oh, so it's all meters?
but you convert it to feet and inches. But
Okay.
in college they do it in meters.
So it's 1270. Is that 12 meters? 12.7 meters?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. It's so weird that we don't use the metric system
Yeah.
in the U.S.
Yeah.
Extremely inconvenient.
Yeah.
The rest of the world does it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you were jumping well. You had your last meet, pulled your hamstring. Just decided that was it.
Well, that also accompanied the fact that then he got a sweet job at Mizzou. He's coaching at Mizzou now.
Oh, is he?
And so yeah. So he moved
okay.
away, and it was kind of like I was already like just coming out of it and feeling tired of like that working towards something and not really getting there, and then that injury, and then him leaving. I was like, all right.
It's just kind of like a natural close to that chapter.
Yeah, it was like, all right. Now, I mean, I could have if the situation was different. Like the problem with staying here in St. Louis, and the whole problem with like going to SLU is that we didn't have any indoor facilities for track.
Oh, yeah. Really?
So like you can train when the weather's nice, and then when those winter months hit, it sucks. And
do they
jumping wise, it was never like we always missed that chunk of like good training during the winter because there's no indoor facilities.
Right. Yeah. You see that with sports like golf, where the golfers who live in like warm weather climates, they just do better because they're able to train more. Mm-hmm. So I guess I imagine it's the same thing with track athletes. You probably see a lot of those schools like down in the South or on the coast, like they probably do great at track.
Yeah.
Just because they have a longer training season.
Definitely. I was even considering moving to Texas. Like I was ready to go somewhere warm. Like, man, I need to go somewhere where I can actually train year round, or they have indoor facilities. So
Texas would be good. I like that place.
Originally in high school, one of his name was Terry Ayers. He was like, "You need to go to Texas." That was one person who was like in my ear about where to go for college.
Yeah.
And I was like, Texas.
Man.
I didn't know anything about anywhere. I was like, and then I was like, Nebraska. And then it was like cornfields there. And I just small-minded St. Louis brain, And in retrospect, it's like, Nebraska is a legit track team.
Yeah, I graduated with a girl. She was a triple jumper. She was like a national champ and whatnot. And she went to Nebraska and had a really good career there.
Yeah.
It's a good school.
Yeah.
Good school. Yeah, man, that's the problem when you're young like that, and if you haven't had the opportunity, like me growing up, I didn't really have the opportunity to like travel a lot. The first time I actually left the state of Missouri that I can remember was, I think the summer before my junior year, and we went to Nebraska, of all places, for a wrestling camp. I never traveled or did anything, so I had like a very limited scope of like the possibilities and like the like what is all out there.
Right. So it's just like now it's like I see all these places, and then traveling and with SLU and then going to these other places and seeing other programs, I'm like, dang, they are good in Nebraska. Or Texas is a big school, and they are really good.
Texas is huge.
Yeah.
And Austin is dope.
Yeah. And then we went there to Austin. I was like, man, this is so nice. I wasn't 21 yet. Was I 21? I had to been 21, but I was like, oh man, they have like all these bars and
Holy shit, you were down to
everyone's in the
6th Street.
streets.
Yeah, you were
Yeah,
telling me about 6th
yeah.
Street. Yeah,
I was like, this
man.
is St. Louis is like, oh, and then you got all of this, and it's like, I was
Yeah,
like,
man. Like the closest thing we might even have remotely to that is like maybe go down to the landing. That's like 1 block long. It's the
yeah,
smallest little street.
yeah. But people aren't even out anymore. I feel like every time I
No.
go down there, it's not the same.
No, I had went to a blues fest. There's a blues fest down there recently. We went to
Mm,
that. There's some people out there, but it just wasn't all that.
yeah.
You can just go to 6th Street on just any given Friday probably
Hmm.
and have a much better time. Last time I was down there, a football game had just gotten out. So there were a crazy amount of people on 6th Street. Anyway,
That was fun though.
yeah, I'm sure you guys did a lot of things that you weren't supposed to do.
We wasn't actually out that long. I like funny enough, like I never really drank until like after college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I didn't pick up any freshman 15 or anything like that.
Yeah, you're focused.
Yeah, I was just training and
Just a good athlete, right?
yeah,
Trying to stay the course.
trying.
I can dig it. I can dig it. Well, yeah, 'cause you are an amazing athlete, and it's evident like whenever you fight, like you're just much longer. You have a much longer reach than a lot of these girls, and you use it well. But you have good hips. Like you have good power. It's easy to see. Um, so what was the transition into fighting for you?
Well, like it's I guess while I was in my post collegiate years, that's when I met Charles. And
Oh, so you
so
guys met after college, right?
yeah, I was still like he was still running, and he went to SEMO and he was running. I met him at a track meet, and then I like met him a little later after that, and then that's how we like connected. And then when he was done with his track career, because he was already kind of back and forth into MMA, boxing, and track.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was finished with track and he started getting back into fighting, so then there I am, like going to his fights and
Yeah.
listening to him tell me about arm bars and all this stuff, and I'm like just watching. At first it was like, oh, it was very gruesome, and been around the sport, I started learning more. Then I was like, so then when it all came to an end for me, I was like, I want to try that,
Yeah.
so it was like, here it goes, just I went from one thing to another.
Just chasing the next dream.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was like right there, and I was like, well, why not? I never like thought like I was gonna like go and be a fighter or anything. I was just like, that looks interesting. I want to try it. It's a lot of technique, and I'm a person who likes technique.
Mm-hmm.
Because in triple jump, it's like all about perfect like form and technique, and so I learned that there was all these techniques, and it's like not just like basketball. You practice your free throws, you dribble, and it's like once you get those things down, it's not as many layers. I feel like jiu-jitsu, I was like learning that there's like layers upon layers to things.
So many layers.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
So that sucked me into that. And so after I was done with that, then I started, trying out jiu-jitsu and boxing and whatnot.
And then just the rest is history. You just kind of been taking off from there.
Yeah.
Took to it like water.
Yeah.
I remember when you joined the gym because I remember watching Charles. So for the folks listening, we're talking about Charles Energy Johnson. I probably have him on the podcast. I probably should. I remember like, yeah, he was still doing track and traveling back and forth between SEMO and here in St. Louis. And I'm like, I guess when he was on break, he was up here and he would train with us here and there. And then, then he was just here full time. And then like you just kind of like popped up out of nowhere. And then you just started wrecking fools. You were wrecking girls. Are you pro yet?
Yeah.
You are pro now, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many pro fights have you had?
Just one.
Just the one. Was that for Invicta?
Yeah.
Do you foresee yourself still fighting for them?
Yeah, I mean,
Is that the goal? Is Invicta the goal for women? I mean, I know the UFC obviously has a women's division now,
yeah.
but Invicta seems to take care of their fighters really well.
Yeah. Well, I have 3 more fights with them. But I mean, obviously I want to go to the top,
Right.
So, I'm happy to be with Invicta, and it's a really great thing to start my pro career with them,
Yeah.
So it's an amazing opportunity, and I just want to make sure that every fight that I have with them is better than the last,
Right.
and take it as far as I can go. And I mean, I'm seeing females who are, on Invicta or just in the weight class, period. And it's just like, all right, they're in the UFC now and, they're doing well.
It's
And
very
it's like,
motivating.
yeah, you can see the movement of fighters. And then think about myself and what I know that I have and I possess. And I just know that I've been an athlete all my life. And it's like, third time's the charm, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
It's come from sports, like went to basketball track. All right, this has to be
Like,
it,
this
right?
has to be it.
This is gonna be it, But then it's like, whatever you really put your mind to, and you stay committed to it, you'll be successful. You'll get to where you want to go.
That's true.
Yeah, I think in this sport, it comes to like who's grinding the most. Even if you lose, like there's people who lose and they still keep going, and then they eventually make it to where they want to be. So it's just a matter of like not giving up, really.
It really is, because so many fighters let a loss derail them. I've been guilty of that in my past. Just like you take a hard loss and it's like, instead of getting right back to training, you take 3 months and it's like, fuck, man. Now I'm just like all fat and out of shape, and now you're trying to get back into it. It's like now you got to start all over. You got to get back into shape just to get even like remotely to a place to where you can start like developing your skills again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a vicious cycle. It's a hell of a grind, but you're used to the grind, right?
Yeah, but that's kind of like where I am now, like with all this the other things that I have going on right now. So like went back to work after my fight, and I didn't want to I wanted to get adjusted into work because the beginning of the school year is kind of like a lot.
It's a hectic time.
Yeah, and then since I'm finishing up my master's and then I'm doing my internship, so I'm like seeing clients and things outside of work. So then like that's taken away from like the time to train. So I'm like in this period of like, really, I wanted some time off and I took that, but now it's like I want to get back in the gym, but I still have to like, finish this obligation that I know I really need to finish. So, but that mindset of like, man, I've been out of the gym and trying to go back and to feel it, and you're gonna have to make up everything that you lost before you can like, really get back into it. So, but it's like, a mental thing, and
It's a lot of it's mental, because you see some people take off like real long layoffs, and they come back just looking great. I think a lot of it is definitely mental, but it's very mentally taxing to like not be training, and then like you just think about that. You're just like, oh fuck, man, like it just really, it can be like, it can just really wear on you.
Yeah, I use it as like a mental wellness time, because when you're grinding so much and you're training all the time, we like exhaust our bodies, but we're not really also thinking about like the toll it takes on us mentally, the stress and that fatigue. And sometimes you need to rest and heal and allow your mind to, rejuvenate.
That's true too.
So sometimes the rest is necessary.
I agree. It's very mentally taxing once you actually sign a fight contract.
Yeah.
Do you obsess over your opponents?
No, not really.
No.
No. Less and less each time I fight, because it really has nothing to do with them, really.
Right.
Is what I'm learning is that it has everything to do with me.
Right.
Because if I spend all my time obsessing about what they're going to do and I'm not thinking about me and what I'm going to do, then like they've already won in a sense, because just through the experience of like fighting people who have like names behind them and like, all this expertise, like when I fought Luana, who was like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, or even my last opponent, they were like talking about how good she was in jiu-jitsu. But then like I didn't give myself credit for like who I train with and where I am. And like, okay, so I may not be like a purple or black belt, but man, do I get myself into some crappy situations in training where I still am a survivor. And so like getting into those fights and I'm like, oh, she didn't submit me, like I still did what I know what I knew how to do. So like obsessing about their strong points really wouldn't get me anywhere, because I really should just focus on what I do have and my attributes and how I'm going to win the fight.
Self-belief is very important to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can definitely erode if you start giving the other person too much respect,
No.
yeah, that can definitely be a problem. That can definitely. But you have plenty of time. You're young. How old are you?
No. I'm
Ah,
28.
see, 28. That's so. Oh my goodness. You still have time. You still have time. I just got tired of getting punched in the head.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. I worry about my brain too much.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I just always worry about my brain. So now I'm always just like focused on like how can I like make it the best it can possibly be? Like what can I possibly like put into my diet or what can I do differently to just make my brain that much better
Yeah.
constantly.
Your brain is the most important part. So that's like
It's pretty important that
the gamble that you play with there.
yeah, yeah. That and your stomach. Your stomach's super important too.
Yeah.
Did you know? No, so like 80% of our serotonin is produced in our stomach. It's produced in our gut. So literally the way we feel is produced in our stomach. So like the food that we eat and everything that we ingest is going to have a direct impact on like how we feel and like interact with this world. So stomach's pretty important too.
I mean, I definitely believe that. I mean, they say you are what you eat too. And if you're eating a whole bunch of crappy foods, you kind of feel crappy.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I also heard like you are what you ate, meaning like whatever you're eating, whatever they ate
Mm,
also affects you. So like if you're eating beef and it's eating all shit food that it's not supposed to be eating, like it's not grass fed or grass finished,
yeah.
then that's gonna have an impact on you as well.
Yeah. Definitely appreciate this time where you're the access to the knowledge of like healthy foods and healthy ways to like be is definitely a game changer. Like, people are more health conscious and really considering and thinking about what they put in their body and what they eat.
Yeah, we're learning a lot. It's an interesting time to be alive. It's an interesting time to be alive. Brittney
Yeah.
Cloudy.
Mhm.
So okay, you're you're finishing up your master's because you want to be a counselor. And we were talking at the gym the other day, and I thought maybe since you're a teacher, then just the natural progression would be like you're going to counsel kids. But that may not be the case for you, right?
No.
What are you thinking with that?
Um I was thinking more so like I wanted to be able to. I mean, I'm not against counseling kids, but I do have like desires to like I need a little break. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I spend all my tight days talking with kids that it is nice to just have a adult conversation,
Right.
and because then I feel like I can be more authentic within myself and speak how I like to speak. Like I like to talk in metaphors and analogies and stuff, and sometimes most of the times the kids don't get it,
Way over their head.
or I'm sarcastic or something. So, um, the thing is like with like careers and work, I want to do something to where I feel like I can just really be me and not, because that's where I feel like that's where you get the most enjoyment out of your life is if you're doing something that you actually love and that you actually get to be yourself instead of feeling like you kind of have to put yourself in this professional box of a persona that you're trying to be.
Yeah, 100%. I
Mhm.
cannot agree with that statement any fucking more
Yeah.
because I've done the whole like corporate path and man, it's just so miserable. Like I left the corporate world, I cannot go back.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. I'm officially like unemployable to the corporate world because it's just like nobody's really themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like everybody's putting on this persona or like they're speaking in ways that they wouldn't naturally speak just because it's like, well, this is the agreed upon way that we're going to speak now. Like we're going and it's just like, oh man, it just seems so fake and it's just not very fulfilling.
Yeah. Um, well, nerd fact, but within my counseling, we learned about personas. Like that's just something that people do. Is that
Mhm.
within their different aspects of their lives, they wear different faces to
Mhm.
fit into different environments, and it's exhausting.
Super exhausting. I just try to be my authentic weird self everywhere I fucking go.
Yeah,
It's not easy.
but I think we're seeing that more where people are just not worrying about the scrutiny of others or society, and they're just saying, "Look, this is me,"
Mhm.
and you either love it or you hate it. And I think that we need more of that because I think that we've put in a standard on people in ways to act and be a certain way when in reality, like, is this really you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of makes it hard with trust as well. I saw this one stand up by this lady, and she was from Ireland, and she was just talking about like how she could never really figure out like the English language or people in America
Yeah.
because of all of the like many different meanings of words and how people say it. It's
Everything's
like,
so nuanced.
yeah, whereas she's like, they say what they say and they mean it just like that. They're like very cut and dry, or,
Mm-hmm.
versus people don't really say how they really feel, is like what I got from it.
Yeah.
And I believe that. Like,
Yeah, that's so true. I can't remember what I was listening to, but they just used the example of the word fuck. Like, and they use like in a word like they're like fuck you, you fucking fuck. Each of those words has a different like implication like within that sentence,
yeah.
but it's all the same word. And there's no other like other languages don't have words like that, and they don't have meanings like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She used the example of girl.
Girl.
Like, yeah. Because she was like, I don't know, it was like she was telling a story about how one of her friends had did something that was pretty bad, and she was like, her response to it was, girl. And she's like, like it really, but that word girl meant you needed to do this and you needed to do that and this and this and that, but all she said was girl, and she knew what that meant,
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny.
That is funny. Yeah, man. It's just all about just trying to be your authentic self. But the English language is fucking complicated. That's why I shouldn't say I can't, but that's why I have found it difficult to learn another language. When you try to translate it, it just doesn't translate right. Like,
Yeah.
English is backwards from the rest of the fucking world.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, I like to say, like, everybody else speaks like Yoda. Like, it's always like subject and then, or I mean, it's always like verb and then subject. It's never like subject and then verb. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm teaching kids how to, read in English and everything. And I'm like, okay, I know I taught you this rule, but this word doesn't match that rule. This is
Yeah.
one of those words that don't fit the rules. There's so many words like that.
How do you break the bad habits?
What do you mean, like?
Like kids learn like they speak so incorrectly from like they learn just the worst shit from either like other kids or just at home or whatnot. You ever
Yeah.
try to like break those bad like grammatical habits at school?
Yeah, see, that's the thing is like, we have to like understand that like people have like home language and school culture language, and it's not necessarily saying that their home language is wrong. It's just like, okay, but when you're in these situations, it's like being situationally appropriate when it comes to like speaking and
Right.
your words. So it's like that's what we're teaching. So, because what I learned when I was coming up from my house, you speak how your parents, spoke. One thing that Charles always gets on me about, and I still do it to this day. I'll say, hey, raise that window down. And I have to,
Oh shit.
I have to really work on thinking, okay, close the window or shut the window and not raise the window down, because it's like opposite. But
I love it.
so, and then I'm like, I'm educated, but I still say some things that I just can't help because that's my home language.
Mhm. I had to point out to Deja the other day. I go, I don't think you realize you say anyways a lot. And there's no S on
like anyways.
like anyways. I'm just like, I've never said anything to her like all this time, but like I finally said something to her. She's like, no, you're right. I don't know why you've never said anything to me before. We just have weird things to say in things. Yeah. It's really weird. Growing up, my grandma, she used to say zinc instead of sink.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me fucking why. There's no Z there.
Yeah.
But she used to do it. And then obviously we're in Missouri where people say what? Warsh.
Yeah. Then there's all the different dialects, of within America. So that's a whole nother thing too. And it's like, how do so it's like you're code switching between languages because, if you come from a certain region, how you say certain things and pronounce certain things is different than like the standard English way of
Mhm.
speaking. So that's why I feel like people who come to America, they're like, it's hard to learn English because you go to one place and this is that, and then there's a whole nother thing somewhere else.
Yeah, we are weird creatures, human beings. I try to teach my kids that there are no bad words. That they're just not all words are appropriate at all times.
Right. I mean, that's like how profanity is. It's like we say that they're bad, but it is bad because in certain situations you don't use those words.
Right.
But people use those words.
All the time.
So it's always like, well, those are bad words. But in reality, it's like, well, it's just a word that you use in a certain expression.
Yeah,
So
it's like, well, and then just depending on the word, like sometimes we just give words far too much power.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just like, it doesn't have any power if you don't give it any power.
yeah,
So, yeah, and then just when to actually use those words is super important. Because I cuss all the time.
yeah.
I can't help it. So I'm definitely cussing around my kids. I just let them know. I'm like, hey, man, this is just not, you just got to know when to use this.
Right.
I've caught them cussing here and there. I've heard my son, like, he'll be playing a game or something and be like, shit. I'm just like, what? Oh, so funny. So who do you want to help? Because we were talking about the homeless population some the other day, and then you sent me that thing, which that's a cool story. I thought that was somebody else. Do you know the actress? I can't think of her name, but she's in quite a few Tyler Perry movies.
I'm terrible at people's names.
That's right. Look, we got Google right here. Let me look it up. Either way, she used to I thought it was her story because like she used to be like a prostitute and whatnot, and now she's just fucking killing it. I don't know. I'm gonna find her name out though.
Yeah, people. Sent you this like little link from this lady who was like homeless and addicted on drugs and everything, and pretty
Yeah.
much how like she changed her whole life around and went to school, and now she's an author and everything like that. And it's just like, I feel like sometimes we look at people for their current situation and think that this is just who they are, how they've always been. Sometimes we should like think deeper into how they got there and what happened to them, and like where I was thinking like when I wanted to like help the homeless population was like getting past the sense of hopelessness. Just because you're there, living on the street and you have nothing doesn't mean that, you couldn't do something to change that around. Like, your future could be, nearly close to whatever it is that you want it to be, as long as you have the help and support of others in a lot of cases, really helps people to change their life around.
That's so true. Like you're not like your current situation isn't like your final situation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's so easy to feel like, especially if you're going through a tough time, like you feel like this is just it and there's nothing else out there. But I
Yeah.
feel like so many people, and I've said this before, but like they overestimate like what can be done in a year and they underestimate how much you can get done in like 5 to 10 years. Like you can build a fucking empire in 5 years.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking crazy. Her name is Tasha Smith.
What she look like? Yeah.
Apparently, she had a story kind of similar to that. I don't know about all the drugs and stuff, but I'm pretty sure she was a prostitute.
Yeah.
I could be making this up, but I don't think I am.
I think people, like everyone has a story to tell, and you'll be surprised, by what different people's stories, are.
I know, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn everybody's stories. You might answer my question. So, do you want to work with the homeless population, or what would be your ideal situation with like counseling? Like, who do you want to help?
Well, I have this great big plan in my mind, like how you dream real big. My friends always tell me.
Dream big.
My friends always tell me that I go 0 to 100. Like I think really big. Like I'm like, oh, we're gonna have people. We're gonna have a party. I'm gonna throw this party and stuff like in one day. No one shows up, but I'm like, well, I visualize this being like that. But when I think about like counseling, I think about taking like all of the things that I have as a person. Like I'm an athlete, and I like to help. I'm in a public service profession, and I like to help people. And I want to bridge like the physical wellness and the mental wellness all together. In a sense of like personal training, like exercises, and like even like maybe opening up a gym, but like in the counseling aspect, also having like a private practice that has all of those things embedded into it.
Yeah.
Where I don't really know exactly. I haven't figured out how I would actually do it, but I know a lot of people can, get up and want to go get a personal trainer to, lose weight or, feel healthier. But what about like also the feelings that go along with it? Like, how did you get here? If you're out of
Right.
shape, and then why are you trying to like, what is the image? What is the, thought behind it? So I think that like everything is interlaced and connected. It's not just like I want to go and work out and get better. There's always like an internal link to it. And so there needs to be like something where I want to meet both of those needs in that sense. And so that's just like for everyone. When I think of future things of, and this is how I feel like fighting will help as well, like a platform to be able to, I want to do like nonprofit things like for like the youth and kids in the community, especially like in St. Louis. I always felt like, and even Charles, we both talk about this as well. We always felt like we wish that there were more like recreational centers, like after school programs and things like that for kids to do, instead of like the alternatives. But it seems like more and more like kids are like just being inside in the house. We used to play outside and interact with others. So I wanted to do more things like that. And then when it comes to like the homeless community, I just never understood how there was just so much money in the world and we still have people living on the streets. And
Very
there's so many,
interesting.
it just, I always wondered, like, where are the humanitarians? Where are they at,
We have big mega churches,
Yeah,
big fucking mega churches that are just sit empty. You know what I mean?
yeah. And so one idea that I thought about was like there's all these abandoned like St. Louis public schools. There was a lot of schools that they shut down. So there's these huge buildings and just huge buildings period in St. Louis that are not being used. Like I thought about like a reconstruction plan of like a remodeling and building these up and making them into like homeless shelters that also have like mental health services as well. Like it was like a business where they stay there, but they can also have like mental health support,
Mm-hmm.
social services to help find jobs and things like that. Like something to like boost the lower end of
Yeah, you're
the
thinking big.
you know
You're thinking big.
and because it just is sad, and it's like, so I just like, where are all these people at who are for people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nothing that would like happen overnight, but I just wanted to, even if it means I can just do a little bit to get a ball moving in one little area, then maybe other people will catch on, But then this issue is not just within our country, it's like all over the world.
Yeah.
I just feel like we place a lot of emphasis into things that are for our entertainment and for our pleasure, but then where's the selfless part of us that also thinks of others and, wanting to have world peace, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
making lives, other people's better. I mean, I feel like this should be a part of everyone, that feeling that you get from helping others. And if everyone is helping someone else, then we're all helping each other. That lack of, I feel like there's just like this lack of unity and care for people.
Yeah. I feel like you definitely have to get yourself into a particular place before you can help others because like
Hmm.
if you're a wreck then you can't help anybody.
Right.
But yeah, it all really does start with the mind. You know what I mean? Like they're just use the example of just like you want to lose weight, but there's usually a much deeper component there, like something like real emotional or just there's something like in a person's history, like why they have this issue.
Hmm.
That's it's much deeper than what you see on the surface. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if you don't address those, then it's hard to make any sort of progress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's what, like, um, that's why I think sometimes people don't, you have, for one, you have to be able to recognize that it's something deeper. A lot of times people don't recognize that there's something internal that's causing them conflict with other things,
Right.
and that's what counseling helps with. It's like, you know, well, if you came there willingly, then you recognize that, and then you want to, but you have to want to figure out, how do I, like, help this. But I think that each of us, even if we feel that we're good and okay, there's still something like internally that we should still process through, that like helps us, not only like, that really heals ourselves internally,
Yeah.
that helps us to live healthier lives,
Yeah.
on the outside in it.
It's important to address those things and to like work through those feelings, especially like being like a man in America. Like you're always told to like not be in touch with that part of yourself, like
Right.
to not address those feelings or to work through those emotions. And also just with society in general, it's almost like frowned upon to be
Mm-hmm.
sad or to not be happy. It's like you're supposed to always be happy, but it's like this is a part of the human condition, and sometimes you do have to work through this, like this bad stuff
Yeah.
to like get to an ultimate like greater good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that like now, because we're hearing a lot more, like, it's sad and unfortunate, but just like all of the teen suicides, and I
Yeah.
think that that's bringing awareness to like the issues like of cyberbullying, depression, anxiety, and all of these things that people are going through, that no people don't feel comfortable with sharing or confiding with other people
Right.
with, because it's looked at as, how it's appeared. Um, I think of it like just the evolution of mental health, period, and like way back when, before we didn't know much about everything, people would just call those people crazy,
Right. For every little thing.
yeah, institutionalized them. And then eventually, with research and people studying, they're like, oh, actually, there's a lot of people who have experienced this, and this is what this is now. Oh, okay, and this is how this caused that. And oh, well, it could be different from this person to that person. And so, like, just over the years, we've learned a lot more about like the mental health aspect, but now it's like changing people's perspectives on it, and how they view it.
I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
I need to get a new camera.
Hmm.
This thing is no bueno. Yeah, no, fucking, I agree with all those statements, Brittany. For the folks listening,
Yeah.
I gotta do something about this recording. I just gotta buy a camera that's dedicated to this and quit
Okay.
using my phone.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, processing those feelings, working through those things. It's all important stuff. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, Brittany.
Yeah.
I lost my fucking train of thought.
We were good. I mean, that's what we were talking about. Just talking about, you were saying that, the people, especially men, like feel okay, comfortable with sharing
Yeah.
that side.
Yeah, no, not really. A lot of us don't. That's something I've been trying to work on. Just being more open, just being more vulnerable. It's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, and it feels very uncomfortable.
Super
Hmm.
uncomfortable. Yeah. But because especially like I've noticed like whenever I'm doing this podcast, I don't know if you do this, but like I tend to obsess over some conversations that I have. Like I'll think about things that I've said in the past, and I'm just like, oh, why the
Why
fuck
did you
did you
say
say
that?
that? Like you
And
sound like
then,
such a fucking idiot. People are gonna think you're a retard. Whatever the case may be, the fact that I just said that, people are gonna be, oh man, he just used that word, right? Like you can't say that word. But yeah, like I'll record these podcasts and I just like, oh man, what the fuck was I doing? Like, why did I share that? Like, why did I say that? Like, and then I just have to like put it out of the back of my mind. I'm just like, whatever, man. Like, it just is what it is. Either you like it or you don't. I'm just trying to be authentic.
I mean, I understand, because right after I was like, hey, let's do this podcast, I was like, why did I just do this? Because that means I'm going to sit here and talk in front of a camera to, you know? And myself, I'm just like, I do that too.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I don't want to say all this out loud, but then I get going and I'm like, okay, well, I'm here. But then that's what I do to help myself to be more comfortable with it, is just doing it. Just go do it, instead of
Just do
overthinking it.
It's just all about growth. You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. And if you're trying to be your most authentic self, a part of that is being your most authentic self with other people.
Yeah.
And being comfortable being around other people and being yourself and not, worrying about the judgments or the scrutiny of other people because
Yeah.
when you don't care about those things, then you're just you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay to be wrong. You know what I mean? I feel like we're always
Hmm.
so scared to like look foolish or like to say something wrong. I do it all
Yeah.
the time. Like the biggest thing is like I'm always worried I'm gonna mess up people's names. So like because of that, like I won't use people's names, and
Yeah.
then yeah. But I'm just trying to get over that shit.
I've done that before. One of my parents came in who was volunteering, and I realized that I didn't really know how to pronounce their last name. So I was like, hey, this is, so and so's mom. And I was like, what would you like to go by? And fortunately, she just said her first name. Okay, we're going to call her Miss. But in my mind, I was like, I don't want to say her name out loud and like mispronounce it or something. So,
It's so
yeah.
funny. We're all as different as we all are. We're all the fucking same.
Yeah, I believe that 100%.
Yeah, like there may be like little different nuances here and there to whatever your life story is, but it's like ultimately, I mean, we're all just humans, and I mean, we're just a higher primate, and we just like we need each other. Community is so important. Like
Yeah.
there's just basic needs that need to be met.
Yeah, I was telling like when I was having a conversation with Rob, I was talking just about that. Like, um, we get caught up on so much of like what we see of a person, like the skin colors and like cultures and everything. But I always felt like, what if people could just like chill for a second and think about just like basic human characteristics that we all have. We all experience the same emotions, like the happiness, sadness, all those emotions. So we all have those things, and then also like within every culture, with every group of people, I feel like people good and bad. There's a spectrum,
Yep.
and there's people who fall on that spectrum in different places within each culture. But like media or just like people's perceptions want to lead you to believe that a certain group of people are all this or all that. No, like people are people, and there's all people can fall in this range of between good and bad.
Right.
And so we let all these other like little stereotypical things cause us to just make generalizations about groups of people and people
Right.
in general. And it's like, it's not, you gotta think outside of like what you were like taught and learn through other people around you,
Mhm.
and be able to put yourself and think differently, step outside of your own
Yeah, just
mind
be
frame.
open.
Yeah.
Just be open to like just receiving whatever the experiences like can actually bring to you because I know from my own experience, I used to have this real bad problem. Like you look at people, and then you're just like, it's just classically just trying to like judge a book by its cover, right? It's
Yeah.
like you see somebody, it's like, oh, they're probably like this, but it's like the complete fucking opposite. It's like you see somebody and like maybe there's like a little bit like scrawny or like have glasses or something. You're like, oh, like he's probably not a very like outgoing person, maybe a little like timid, meek person. But then
Yeah.
they have like the loudest fucking personality and they're just like the life of the party. Just the complete opposite of what, at least in my mind, like that someone who looks like that would be like. And then I just realized I'm like, fuck man, like it doesn't matter like what meat suit you have. Like
Yeah. I really, okay, so I think about these kind of things all the time. That's why I feel like I don't know. I think about these things all the time. Like even like I went to Quick Trip before I got here, and I had my hat on backwards this time before I got here. And so I have my little ski Aesop Rocky braids going on because I haven't done anything to my hair. And I was in a gas station, and there was this guy. He just looked at me for a while, like he just stared at me. I was like, I wonder what he thinks of me just by my appearance. My appearance. I bet you would never think that I was a first grade teacher,
right.
or
You
a
just never
counselor.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, and like just by like how I choose to dress or wear something,
Yeah,
the,
you
the
just never
judgments that
know.
we make.
Yeah. And that used to be like a big thing in America, especially with like people with tattoos, right?
Yeah.
At
Mhm.
least we're away from that stigma.
Yeah, I know, right? Because I like tattoos.
I love them.
Yeah.
Fucking inked up.
Mhm.
Always looking to get more.
I'm glad that I really like my school. We don't like have a dress code, and they don't like have any issues with tattoos and everything. Because that's another thing. I'm teaching kids, and I have like tattoos and stuff. Like
Yeah.
what is that message that sends to kids and how people feel? But
I think it teaches them a message of acceptance
yeah.
because kids don't judge other people. They're just taught to judge. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I
So
definitely agree.
It's just teaching that
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what you look like.
Yeah, and I kind of battled with this with myself for a little while, like, cause I wanted to be in an inner city school and teach, cause I started off in SLPS, you know,
What is that?
St. Louis Public Schools.
Oh, okay, SLPS, gotcha.
Uh-huh. And then I, came out to Kirkwood, and Kirkwood is like a predominantly white, area. But one thing that I thought about was like, well, what about those kids who hardly ever get to see a black person? You know, it's like I, being, and within your own culture is important, but then also giving that exposure to others
Hmm.
so that they can see that they're. So I always felt like it just takes one person to defy a stereotype, you know?
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like if they were taught that all black people are this, that one existence of that black person to be different, it's like, well, how is that possible
Hmm.
when they weren't like that? So that's kind of like why I am definitely like why I'm here in Kirkwood, and I wanted to like be one of those faces.
Yeah,
And yeah, and they're kids, and like I've
yeah.
been in with kids period, and you can just tell it's just about what they know is what they've learned
Hmm.
in their environments, but like they're young and they're moldable, and you can change their mind on things.
It's amazing how one person can literally just shift the entire paradigm of a person,
Yeah.
even an adult. I feel like maybe it was a short documentary, or I don't know what it was, but God, I need to get better at details. But I
Hmm.
think I was watching a documentary, and it was like this lady who followed um, a group of like high-ranking people, like in the KKK. And like
Yeah.
after all of this time that she had spent with them, this is like the classic story. Like, after all this time that she had spent with them, like a few of them like changed their ways towards the end of it. And it's like a lot of times, like those people, like they'll spew their hate towards just like mass groups, but never towards an individual. You know what I mean? Like once you're like face to face with them,
Hmm.
then they like, you know what I mean? Then they start treating you like a person,
Yeah.
and they almost, I don't want to like call them like a pussy, but they start acting like a little pussy, right? Like they don't want to stick by what they've been saying out loud
Yeah.
towards nobody in particular, and then it's
Because deep down they know that
that's
like,
just not right.
yeah, and they know that like you don't know this person. You don't know this person. So for however you felt about this group of people, like you
Yeah,
can't say that
like,
like
yeah, like this person who's interacting with you like as another human being, and they're not acting ignorant towards you, and they're just communicating with you.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously it doesn't happen all the time. Some people will spew their hate, but you know what I mean? It's just like once you connect to somebody on that human level.
Yeah. That reminds me of this book I read with Jodi Pocold. I think that's how say her name. It was Small Great Things, and it was pretty much like it was about like a black nurse who what'd she do? Try to give CPR to their baby, but the baby ended up dying, and she wasn't supposed to be around the baby, so she had to decide if she was gonna try to save the baby or not, because she wasn't supposed to be like touching the baby because they didn't want her to be in the case because she was black. But they didn't say that, but that's why it was. And so then they had her on trial and everything, and um, the father, the white guy, he was a part of the like KKK or something like that, and like in pretty much you learned that his hatred like towards black people came because his brother, I think, died in a car accident, and it was a black driver, and so he blamed that black driver for his death.
Yeah.
And so he thought, but even though that guy really wasn't at fault, but he said that he was, and so that was like the manifestation of his hate towards. So
Yeah.
then he just generalized it because of that trauma that he
Hmm.
had. And so I don't know. I like to believe that a lot of things happen like that, where one person makes you feel like they did something to hurt you, and then makes you feel like
Yeah.
that.
It's like one person created it, so one person can fix it.
Yeah, and it's like just either it was taught or learned, or that generalization was made, and then you took it and manifested across the whole group.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. That's a crazy situation to be in,
Yeah.
I imagine. You said something earlier. I wanted to think. I wanted to. It, when I lost my train of thought, that's what I was
Mm.
thinking about. So I'm gonna come back to it. Do you think that kids just have it too easy? And I say that because, or just not kids, but in America we have it too easy, and I say that because you had mentioned about the number of kids that are committing suicide, and when you look at that, like the suicide rates are usually in pretty they're usually like happening to populations that are pretty well off, right? You don't see that in like struggling communities who are just like focused on like surviving. It's
Right.
always the affluent populations that are fucking killing themselves.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of that here in America, obviously. And I don't know what the statistic is, but it's like I don't know if you make like $20,000 or something like that a year, then you're in the top whatever percent of the world, whatever that is. Have you heard
Hmm.
that statistic? I don't know.
No.
We're always making this shit up, but something like if you make like $20,000 or $30,000 a year, like you're in the top 10% of the world wealth wise. Like that just tells you like how poor a lot of the world is. But we have a lot of suicide here, and it almost just seems to be like from a lack of struggle. Like there's no, it's so easy as far as like our basic needs
Yeah.
that like we just start stressing over other things, and then it just drives this mental anguish, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, I thought about this too. Um, People like when you mention like the struggle, I think when you say like other people who are just basically just trying to
Yeah, they're
survive,
focused on surviving.
like that mental toughness, they don't have time to like worry about all these other things because they're just trying to survive, right? And like others, like in our countries, it's like those problems that wouldn't be problems to other people who have like gone through lot more, you know. Um, I think that definitely plays a huge part in that,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Yeah, and especially because like you'll look at like poor communities or like hunter-gatherer tribes and just places that don't have a lot of material things, like they're just getting by, they're surviving. But they seem to be a very happy people. You know, they have community. They have their basic things met, maybe not easily, but they seem to be doing a lot better like in the mental health aspect of life.
yeah, I think when you have nothing, you appreciate the necessities more,
Right.
like the basic things of life.
It's like you realize what's really important.
Yeah, you know, and because you have to, because that's all you have,
Right.
and that's where you form that connection to.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes those basic things aren't appreciated as much with different areas. Like that's kind of like going back to that sense of like unity within people. Like I wonder like how many people, like, do people confide and talk, like have conversations about how people are feeling,
Right.
you know, that disconnect within a family, within friends, that isolation, that feeling, and or whatever, like, because people really crave connection deep down and need
Absolutely. We
connection.
need it.
So when a person is isolated, they don't feel that because a lot of people's attentions are distracted by so many other things, then they're just left with this isolation of feeling alone
Right.
without, the feeling of family or friends. And we don't have, a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
I always wonder what it would be like to grow up in like a culture or community where like family was the center of everything, but we live in a country where there's a bunch of different cultures that come together, and we don't have a unified, origin of like, you know, something. We're all blended in a sense. We're all doing our own things.
Yeah. Like as a country as a whole.
Yeah, like we're very individualistic,
Yeah.
and that's great thing about that's why we're so successful, because everyone's like, survival of the fittest, but it's like it's just me. Like
Mm-hmm.
one person is, trying to make it. It's not like like
Yeah.
it's like not family centered.
I've wondered if like some sort of like mandatory service would would like help with that. Like in a lot of countries, um, like there's like you have to like join the military for a year or whatever the case may be. Like you have to like mandatory like serve your country. Now I don't necessarily think like everybody should have to like join the military, but just some sort of like mandatory service to the country, whether that be like to the Peace Corps or like if like in your local community where like you have to like volunteer hours to like keeping up with just the community, like, making it look nice and just public service, like a mandatory like public service,
Yeah.
to where like now you have like skin in the game. You know what I mean? Like you're invested in this thing too.
Yeah.
Like we don't have that here. A lot of countries do, and you'll see intense nationalism in those countries, and like we definitely don't have that here.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would help.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also wonder if like I don't know what is it like in high school now, but like actually learning about all of the different like cultures around the world. I mean, we have world history, you know what I mean? But and we have American history, but I feel like world history just all condensed into one like course. But since I feel like we're a country of like many people, I feel like we should learn about everyone's culture, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus it just being like American history and then
And then
other
just
everyone
and
else.
then other.
Because there's like one of those things like you don't know what you don't know until you learn about it. And a lot of things I think is just based off ignorance and not knowing.
Hmm.
Yet we live in a country that's you know
Yeah, there's a lot of history that gets neglected. A lot of facts get neglected.
yeah.
I wonder. Well, I think that we should just. I don't. Again, you're in the school system. I'm not. I'm
Hmm.
just speaking from fucking from nowhere. But like, I feel like they need to like revamp a lot of the curriculum, because like we're not teaching kids how to think. We're teaching them what to think, and like we're just like breeding factory workers still.
Yeah,
Why are we doing that?
we need a lot more application learning. Like, and I feel like in my perfect world, in my mind of like, I think having the exposure and actually being in whatever it is that you're learning, to actually be there and see it with your eyes and experience it is a
Hmm.
deeper connection to learning than just to read it in a book, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so like when I was also thinking about like learning about other cultures, there should be a side of it where you actually go and do something and work with other people, that would like it's just surface level like learning. It's not deeper
Right.
you need like a deeper connection to like what you're learning. You learn and hold on to that knowledge a lot more when you have like the actual experience to go with it too.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. It's no longer like abstract. It's kind
Yeah.
of like a concrete like idea. Now, I do think that we're like a lot of the curriculum could probably like, why are we teaching some things that aren't needed? Is what I wonder.
Yeah. Like
Well, I just think about the push. Like math is super important. Don't get me
mhm.
wrong, but like we'll push. It's like we're pushing every kid towards the academic pathway, and not every kid's going to be an academic. You know what I mean? It's like, why are we not offering more practical things for some of these kids? Because at the end of the day, maybe the whole idea of no child left behind is great, but at the end of the day, like there's nothing wrong with like digging ditches. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
like if you were like if like a manual labor type job is something that is fine with you, and like that's just kind of like where you're going to be, like what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? Like like all these kids, and this is just kind of going back to what we were saying, like how everyone's kind of like pushed towards college.
Mhm.
But I mean, there are a lot of tech schools that a kid could go to for like 2 years and be just fine. Or
Yeah.
there are a lot of kids who have probably could learn some very usable skills in high school, and then go immediately into the workforce and just start being a productive person like that way.
Yeah.
But instead they're made to feel like, well, you're a loser if you don't go this other route. And instead, like, we don't teach some of these other things, like how to balance a checkbook. Like, not many kids are writing checks. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hardly anybody writes checks these days. I would imagine, but why are we not teaching them those skills?
Yeah. I feel like that about like taxes and stuff.
Taxes.
And
We all need to do those.
apparently there was a class that taught you about that, but it wasn't required. And like I've never like when I was in high school, because I really was like I wish that there was a class that taught me about these things. I still don't really even know much about like all about Texas period, but like to really think about like making sure that students are like learning the actual practical things of
Yeah,
life that
just
you
the
need to know.
basic things of life.
Yeah, and it being required, not optional. Like, yeah, so in that sense, what you're saying, like the curriculum, there should be some things that need to be adapted because times are changing,
Right.
you know, and people, we there's the needs are different, and we need to, like, align with those needs and for like where we are. And, like,
Right.
everything, like a lot of things are technology based now. So you think about like all the new jobs and things that are opening up for that, so
Mhm.
there should be like, I remember back when I was in high school, they were like ITT tech. But I don't know much about all that other stuff. But yeah, so thinking about like where we are now and how can we like really shift it to like cater to all the needs of the different students, because yeah, everyone's not a college person.
No, not by any stretch of the
you know
imagination.
just another way to get more people in debt to go and doing something that may not be exactly for them or what they
Yeah.
really want to do. So then that begs the question of like, would there be something beneficial to like going to some type of mid, I don't know, like something that like every student can go to that would help them to like really figure out what exactly they want to do? I know that there's like inventories out there and things like that, but like I think like a whole bunch of field trips or something, like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean, like actually seeing it and
Mhm.
doing it. And well, I think that would help like
Well,
people
do they have to
understand
figure out what they want to do?
at that time.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, then what do they do in the meantime? Is what I'm saying. Like,
Figure it the fuck out, man. Like, I think it's so funny because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure it out. Like,
hmm
like you think you have like a plan, and then it goes to shit, and then you just pivot and readjust and start working a new plan. Like, still going towards the same goal, just a different path. And it's like we're just slowly just trying to figure it out.
yeah,
But at that age, it's just like, well, you need to have it figured out.
yeah.
But even the people who are telling them to figure it out don't have it figured out.
And then even,
Like how many teachers are getting like hammered on the weekends because they hate their fucking job. Like,
yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. Like, even like you pick a career and you like it, and then things change, and now you feel like, you know what, actually, this isn't it. Like, then what
yeah.
do you do? Like, life is going to be ever changing. You're
Mhm.
always going to be evolving, and it's like, well, how do you adapt to the change?
Well, you have $50,000 worth of debt. You can't change. You gotta stick this one out.
Yeah, right. Or
Shit.
go back and get some more debt.
Go back and get more debt to change.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
You ever thought about universal basic income?
Mm.
I think about this idea, and it came up on Joe Rogan's podcast one time. But just with where we're going with automation and technology, I mean, especially with if you think about, I don't know where we'll be at in 10 years with like self-driving cars, but
Mm.
I mean, I imagine we're going to be really fucking far to the point to where like we probably won't need truck drivers, which is a huge population of
Yeah.
lower educated white males, right?
Yeah.
What are all those dudes going to do for a job? And why why do they have to actually have a job if we have the technology to eliminate those human jobs to where that they're done better and more efficient,
hmm
then why you know what I mean, like why can't those people do other things? I
Yeah.
feel like we're going to get to a point to where we're not going to there's not going to be enough jobs for people.
Yeah. And that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, because of technology. So it's just like, what's wrong with some sort of, even if it's just like, I don't even know, just basic, just like housing and maybe a little food,
Yeah.
like $1,500 or something a month. Like,
Well, how
I'm just
can
throwing
we
a
if our
number.
country is in so much debt within itself?
How are we in debt?
I don't know. But it seems like
It's
it,
just, I don't
because it's
know.
like we if I don't understand, like, are we like,
Money's not real,
yeah, and it's just like, I don't know.
but it is. We
Yeah.
got to master that game.
Yeah, obviously we haven't figured that out, because if we're doing so well, you know, people come to America
Hmm.
because of all of the opportunities, yet we're not doing well enough to keep, like, our people off the street, like
Yeah,
our people who are in poverty, like how, you know?
that's a great question.
So it's like, then we're not doing that well.
We're definitely not trying to be the best country that we could be.
Yeah.
Because if we were, we would take care of our people
Yeah,
better.
because isn't this it's about the people. Without the people, there's no country. So that's what I mean. It's like, where are the humanitarians? Where are the people who are like, we're doing well because and our people are happy.
Mhm.
Like that's the overall just, but like we're in like turmoil within each other. It's like been in a very dysfunctional relationship, and we're like the kids, and we're like, stop arguing, mommy and daddy. That's how I feel. And we're all getting the impact from it, you
Yeah.
know. We're all getting the impact from all of this, and now we're like, now the siblings are arguing with each other because they're saying that, and it's just like a whole dysfunctional family
It's
of
madness.
mess.
It's madness. Yeah, I just feel like something has to give because with the way technology is going, there's no way there's going to be enough jobs for everybody. And I, for one, would love to get like $1,000 check or something.
Let's start talking about free will. What would you do if you had free will, man?
Man, just like I mean, just what kind of things would be created if people weren't stressed about just basic needs? Nothing crazy. Like I'm just talking about just like a place to live and maybe a little bit of food. Like you'd
Yeah,
still, if for anything extra, you still have to go out and earn that and provide that value. But
right.
you know what I mean? But like you wouldn't be stressed about like
People would be a lot happier.
a million times happier.
Hmm.
And I wonder like why can that not be? I know some people feel like that would make people lazy. I feel like maybe some people for sure would be lazy, but I know like for like myself, I would go out there and I would grind even harder, and it'd be easier to grind harder because you're not stressed about this other thing.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? I think a lot of people would do that too. I think they'd pursue more, just they would just pursue more things that bring value to them, and
yeah,
ultimately, I think that bring value to those around them as well.
yeah. And it make them happy too.
Exactly,
Yeah, I
exactly,
agree.
exactly. And you wouldn't need to find happiness in a pill.
Right. And we can do more of these things where we actually interact with each other because we have the
Exactly.
time and energy. Like, oh, let's all just get together because you're free and let's just
Let's just
sit
talk.
around and talk and have conversations. But people don't do that anymore a lot, you
No,
know?
nobody does it. They're all looking at their phone. What's going
Hmm.
on next? I love this thing. Starting this podcast was like the best thing I've done. I've had so many good conversations. I'm just churning these things the fuck out.
Yeah,
It's good stuff.
I agree. So it's like this battle of like you being connected and trying not to be too connected. Because, you know, like when you're like sucked into this virtual world, you're like not in the present world. And I
Yeah,
think about that a lot. Um, Technology is great, but then it also causes problems.
yeah,
Like my theory is because we're like, man, in school, like, do you remember all of these kids having ADHD? Do you remember like all these focus issues or everything that's happening like now? And I don't remember a lot of this, you know.
yeah. Me neither.
And but like now it's like a lot more prevalent, and I'm like, babies are like using iPads and they're like glued to like TV and the technology, and it's like an addiction
Yeah,
already. And the word addiction comes with, you know, negative consequences that come from it as well. And I feel like, you know, that has a lot to it to do it because like just my face and me talking to students sometimes I have to like perform to keep their attention. I
yeah.
mean, they are kids, half of that is that. But
Mhm.
then there's like this other edge is like, man, I have to like constantly their attention span is this long, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like if something is and it's not gratifying enough.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they have like an unrealistic like expectation on like when they should be like when they should get like gratification, and it's
Mhm.
always instant in today's world, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if it's not now, like they don't have any patience and they don't
Yeah.
understand what it takes to actually wait, like that delayed gratification.
I lost my train of thought earlier when you were asking me about like the suicide thing, and I think that has a lot to do with that. Just that we live in this time of wanting things and needing things now
Mhm.
versus going through the process and knowing that it's going to take a while. So like if you're unhappy, if you're depressed and your inner being is not healthy, it's not something that is just going to like something that's going to just quick fix it. It's
Right.
something that takes time.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of people, instead of taking that time to really invest in themselves and getting themselves well, they choose the alternative.
Right. Yeah, it all takes time and it
You
takes
know?
work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're always we're just
You have to do the work.
yeah, you
You know?
really do. Like we're always sold just everything can be done quickly, and or it's in this pill or it's in this bottle, and this is instant this and instant that, but it's just like, man, no, like the most rewarding things in life and anything that is actually going to add any sort of value takes fucking time.
Yeah. And even if like some are using like a medication for like to regulate whatever chemicals in their brain, the other half of it is still you still have to go through the process of like talking and
Mm-hmm.
addressing like that's I personally don't believe that that is just the only way to fix it. You know, like say a person is depressed and they do have medication that helps them with their chemical levels in their brain to make them feel happier.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like through like other therapies and things that they need to do that really will actually truly get to the root of their unhappiness, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like two things. It's not just that one.
100%. I think before they even take the pill, if we're just sticking with this example, especially because so many people they neglect all of like the other things they could be doing. So before you take the pill, like have you looked at your lifestyle? Like are you getting enough rest? Because sleep is one of the best things that we it's a cure all for so many things.
Yeah.
Like are you eating the right type of food? Like are you exercising? Like do you have a community? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
have you tried these other things? Um, Before going to this, and some people really do need the medication, right? But
Yeah.
so many people resort to that first
Yeah.
before doing these other things,
Yeah.
and then you tie that into electronics in today, and it's like are we really connected? Because man, like that constant dopamine hit
Yeah.
towards the end of the day, sometimes like whenever I'm really just like working social media, like promoing,
Mhm.
and it's like I'm on my computer all day. Like towards the end of the day, like my fucking head hurts, and it's just like stimulation overload, and I have a hard time focusing.
Yeah.
Like my mind hurts. I'm just like I've been staring at a computer too long, or I've been checking Instagram and Facebook too many times. It's just mental like overload.
Yeah. I think about that like with video games too. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can talk to people and connect with people while you're playing. I still feel like it's still not the same, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you are like connecting with people, but I still feel like it's like a, what's the word? Like an off brand of the real thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I feel like that's more of a. I feel like online gaming is more of a connection than like a lot of these social platforms.
Mm,
But yeah, it's the same thing. And the only reason I feel like that is because like I spent a lot of hours like by myself playing games as a kid.
yeah.
And then now at least like you are talking to somebody, but a
Mm,
lot of the times like you're actually like doing something together. Even though it's not like physical,
yeah.
but like you both are playing the game and like working towards like a goal or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be, like but it's still it's not the same as if like I would have had like a friend come over and we're both just like sitting there next to each other playing the game. Like
Yeah.
maybe we're not talking to each other, but we're both like next to each other and you can
Yeah.
feel that energy. Like
Yeah.
being in the physical presence of somebody, that changes everything.
Yeah. Sometimes I just feel like there's like that wall up, that block that's when you like when you're online or something. Like it's good to definitely be able to do that. But
Yeah,
then like I think it's like you gotta have both.
I
Like
agree.
to like those who like just isolate themselves to just that. It's like you still are lacking um that an interaction of people
Yeah,
that you still need
yeah,
in
you're
its
still missing
natural
that
form.
input.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're more connected than ever, but are we really?
Yeah. That's what they say.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
Yeah, so that's kind of like my fear. I'm like, I think I was listening to something and we're like, yeah, when this virtual world, like where you can just go and do, you know, whatever you want in this virtual world. And it just also remind me of that show, like it's on Netflix, Black Mirror.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how short the episode or the seasons are.
Hmm.
You can fly through that shit.
Yeah. So like those things, I'm like, you know, that when they make these shows and movies and stuff, someone came up with this idea. It's based on some truth or something, like, you
Yeah,
know, and it's like it's kind of scary to think about. Like, I'm like, I don't want to get sucked into that, you know?
yeah, yeah. And we're kind of there in certain ways. Like, did you see the episode where it's like everywhere you're going, like they're constantly rating you?
Yeah, yeah, I remember that one.
It's like fuck, man. Like we're already kind of there. Like rate
Mhm.
the seller, rate the Uber driver, and then they're rating you too. Like
Yeah,
everyone's fucking rating everybody. It's like
yeah.
we're already there.
So then going back to the whole persona thing, can you even feel comfortable just being yourself without worrying about someone's gonna judge you now? And it's gonna be like a public thing and like being able to like take that judgment? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So people are in their best form all the time.
Yeah, I think if you're being your authentic self, and for me, like my mission is like positivity and like to connect people, I feel like you just gotta fucking just deal with it.
Yeah, but
Y-
I'm saying that most
But
people, they
yeah,
don't like I don't know. I'm not in the minds of every woman who like feels like they can't go out the house without makeup on, but like that's one thing I feel like sometimes like do you feel comfortable just like wearing your regular face sometimes as I think about
yeah,
because just like talking to other people or just knowing some people and it's like makeup enhances beauty, but are you okay with or
yeah,
do you feel beautiful without it?
right.
You know, and then like it just keeps getting passed on. Like I just see it more and more with like feeling like you are only at your most beauty with all of these things like
Right.
that you put on the outside of your body, you know.
Mhm.
There was some preacher that I saw on Facebook, he was going in about just like women and like their outward beauty is like cake. He's like, I wanted some cake, and she had all this beautiful icing, and then when I bit into it, all I had was icing
Yeah.
because she didn't have any substance,
There's no
like no
substance
cake,
there. Yeah.
so it's like, remembering that that's really the most important part, that's
It
you.
really is.
And I feel like sometimes because we live in this world, a lot of filters and everything. I wrote my whole research paper on this self-esteem linking with like social media and everything, just like with the filters and like people posting so much about like their abs and like working out and looking good that like it's for other people who don't look like that's making that because it's natural people compare themselves to other people,
Right.
and so it feels it has a connection with lowering people's self-esteem,
Mhm.
and all those things like that. So it's just like I don't feel like that's pushed as much of like people needing substance. Like, yeah, the icing is beautiful, but what about like you?
The substance is so important. So
Yeah.
important. Comparison will rob you of all joy.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things that I noticed about you the most is like you don't, and I think people who don't wear makeup a lot or like don't have the fake nails and like have their natural hair, like I think that says so much about like you see those people, and like for me, my perspective is just like I see a person who's very comfortable with themselves, and I wish we would see more of that because whenever I see girls with like I hate fake nails. I hate that shit, especially when they're like super long.
Like,
And
how
then
do you do anything with
yeah, how
them?
do you do anything with them?
Can't even pick up a quarter.
Well, you get to the point to where it's just like your real nails
Yeah.
they erode away. Like
Yeah.
now you're relying on this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and then it's like like every 2 or 3 weeks you're spending hundreds of dollars on fake hair, and then it's like
Mhm.
then you got fake eyelashes, and it's like you'll
It
see
becomes expensive.
it's like a monthly bill, and like you'll see some chicks who will like they'll look like fucking the creature from the Dark Lagoon, and then they'll put on makeup and they look amazing. It's just like
I feel
this.
sorry for you guys.
It's like none of that shit is real, man. None of
Yeah.
that shit is real. And it's like, what are you doing to your skin? Like, like I said, what are you doing to your mind? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you don't need those things to
Because
be
this is the person
beautiful.
that you're always seeing now,
Yeah,
that you're putting on. Like, how often are you just looking at yourself and being happy with that?
yeah.
Like, I used to wear the nails. That stuff broke my nails. I didn't like that, so I didn't do that. And being in sports, that just never really
It
worked
just doesn't
out.
work.
Yeah, and so,
Yeah,
and yeah, and that whole natural movement going on with like a natural hair and everything. Like, I thought about it and I was like, yeah, man, I believe in it. Like, especially with like black women, it's like, that there's a reason why do we want our hair straight,
yeah,
and we're like altering like how we naturally come. Like our hair is kinky and that's how it is, and it's different kinds of kink or whatever, but I don't know, people have their reasons for why they wear their hair a certain way, but one thing that I really felt like, okay, well, putting chemicals in my hair breaks off my hair
yeah,
and it's not healthy, you
yeah.
know? And so just that basic, piece right there, like, motivates me to, like, okay, I want my hair to be healthy, how
Right,
it is,
right.
you know? And not feeling like I want to keep up with any other way. And yes,
Hmm.
weave is expensive.
Super expensive, man. Holy shit. There's so many ways to put it in, too. You can sew it in, you can glue that shit in. It's like, what the fuck?
I mean,
Yeah, You just gotta like accept yourself. And for the people who like those things, like that's like I'm not gonna hate on anybody. Like if you like those things, but like what is your reasoning? I guess is my question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like do you feel less without those things, or like do you just like those things sometimes? You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
like you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's complex and nuanced, but
Yeah.
in general, I just don't understand it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would ask, is like, the intent behind it, just making sure that you are comfortable with how you come. If you
Yeah,
want to do other things because you like to do those things, but you're still okay with what's underneath it, that's fine. But are you
yeah,
doing it to like because you're trying to fit the image of something that you're, want to see in yourself, for whatever reason, then that's like one of those things like, are you think a little deep about it,
right,
get
right.
to the root of it.
Well, yeah, what is the cause?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh, fuck, I had a statement. I lost it. I lost it. I don't know, but fuck it, man. Well, Brittany, we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's been a good conversation.
Yeah.
How can people get a hold of you? Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to plug? How can people get a hold of you? Say hi. Whatever you want.
Oh, well.
Floor is yours.
Oh, well, I am on social media. I'm there, but I'm not there. So that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, I'm here. Well, my Instagram's the Quiet Storm _MMA. Twitter is the same. I am on Facebook as Brittney Cloudy. Yeah, so you can follow me there.
I have all that in the links.
Yeah, I hope to cause I too have been thinking about like how can I use social media to like, like I have all these thoughts that I keep to myself, and I don't really share
You
it.
gotta
And
start
it's,
sharing them.
yeah, I know. So it's like, okay, I guess I should share them, but then it's like, okay, cause I'm still kind of like reluctant to like I don't want to be too, engulfed into like, I don't want to be that person who's always on my phone,
I
but
know.
like this is like a big part of it, like with fighting,
It's just
you have
part
to
of it.
post pictures and do everything. So I'm like, I could probably go without that, but it's a part of the process. But I was just definitely thinking about some things that I wanted to do with social media, as far as like, also pushing out that, that need for mental wellness as well as the physical wellness that I, plan on pushing out there.
Yeah.
So you look forward to something like that coming from me eventually.
Yeah. Just start using it as a platform to teach people.
Yeah. I'm also still I am in the works of writing. I like to write.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'll write before I talk. 'Cause I feel like I can get my thoughts together more. But yeah, so I plan on I'm gonna finish that, and my one goal that I have is to publish this book that I've been working on.
Okay.
So we've been working on that too.
How long have you been working on it? A little bit.
Um, well, I like poetry, so it's a collection of poetry that I've been writing. So some of the poetry I've written a little while ago, and I've included it, but I will say that within this last like 6 months, I've been really like putting it together and piecing it together.
That's dope.
I think, like you said earlier, everyone has a story, and one part of like being authentic is being vulnerable,
Mhm.
and I like poetry is my way of being vulnerable. So I look to pour it all out there in this book, and
I love
one
it.
day publish it.
You have to publish it and then come back and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So that means you have to publish it soon.
Yeah. Well, I still have some more to go. Like,
Yeah, I can dig it.
still have some more to go.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Brittany.
All right. It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, everybody.
Yeah.